Untitled Chapter of the Simpsons. Hey everyone, you're listening to the best show on WFMU. My name is Tom Sharpling. I'm lying to you. My name is Joe. This is a thing called Joe's Too Critical of the Simpsons, in which I summarize new episodes of The Simpsons after they come out, almost right after they come out, unless I don't. I summarize new episodes of The Simpsons doing silly voices that sort of sound like the characters, sort of don't. The voices come from my amazing, wonderful, beautiful, frightening series, The Simpsons, Simpsums. There are links to that all over this SoundCloud page if that's what you're listening on. If for some reason you like listening to this better on YouTube, there's a link to that. If you're listening to this on YouTube and you want to get it from SoundCloud, you can get it from SoundCloud, and there's a download link on every single one of these so you can keep it forever. Can you imagine? There are also timestamps and the descriptions of everything so that you can skip this intro right now. You can skip this intro right now to go to the summary, and after the summary, I do criticism of the episode and I talk about why it's not so good or why it's real bad, because often it's real bad. It's never great, is it? And you can skip to that too if you're real crazed. And at the end, I'll give you some news, but that's news about me and what I've been crying about lately. That's it, man. I'm gonna go right into the summary already. This is season 27, episode 16, called The Marge-ian Chronicles. Like Martian Chronicles, but with Marge's name in it, if you get that. And this aired on March 13th, 2016. Here's the summary! Homer's in the backyard, and who fucking cares how this happens, but Homer says, "Hey Flanders, I didn't know you now have a chicken coop with chickens in it in your backyard." "Well, sir, I now have a chicken coop with chickens in it in my backyard, and fresh eggs taste the best." So then later in the Simpsons kitchen, "Hey, our eggs suck. They look like shit, Marge. Bart, we're gonna steal some eggs from Flanders' coop under the cover of night." So then they do that. "Oh, wow, the eggs are really damn delicious." "I concur, I'm Bart." Then they go to steal more eggs the next night, but Flanders is there. "Well, sir, don't steal the eggs, huh?" "Fine, let's get our own chicken coop with chickens in it in our backyard." "Okay." So they do that. "Okay, let's all eat the eggs we have now." "These are great fucking eggs!" "I like them too, I'm Lisa." "No, they suck." That was funny. "No, they suck." "Yeah, they suck." "Wait a minute. Maybe they only tasted so good because we stole them." So they test this out by stealing some chips from Flanders and eating some of their own chips, and Flanders' chips taste better. They love stealing, it turns out, so they decide to get rid of the chickens, and Lisa finds a humane place to do it. I'm sorry, I'm just going to ramble through this because I'm annoyed I have to summarize this much of the intro just because it's so hard to explain in a few sentences because it's crazy, and none of it has anything to do with the rest of the plot. It's just nonsense. So anyway, that's done. They're getting rid of the chickens. They go to a place. So they go to this damn laboratory place. It's called Exploration Incorporated. "Hi, I'm a guy in a lab coat." "I'm another guy in a lab coat. We're a private company who believe we can establish a community in Mars in 10 years. Also, I guess we'll send the chickens there. That's why we need them, but I mean, we never mention the chickens again. Who cares? We're looking for volunteers to be potential candidates to fly up there in 10 years to Mars, that is." So then back at the house, "I volunteered to go to fucking Mars." "No way!" Homer takes Marge aside. "Marge, the thing I've learned about broads over the years is all you can do is support them completely until they lose interest in whatever they currently care about, because if you forbid them from doing it, they'll want to do it more, see?" "Okay." So then later, "Lisa, do whatever the fuck you want!" "Cool." Then there's some scenes of Lisa, I guess, having fun at the Mars place, and then back at the house. "I still like Mars." "What the fuck is this, Homer?" "Okay, here's what we're gonna do." So then back at the Exploration Mars place, "Lisa, good news! The whole family is gonna try out to be on Mars, even the damn baby." "It angers. I can tell they're trying to fake me out, so I just have to wait until they fuck off. I'm one of the lab coatmen. You guys are gonna try living in this habitat simulator for a week and see what happens." So then they're in the habitat simulator. Hey, Mom, why don't you try this maintenance procedure that sucks and is boring if you love Mars so goddamn much?
Oh, this procedure is just bunches of chores, like cleaning and stuff that I like to do already as a house mom.
It angers.
Okay, fine. So then there's a bunch of scenes of Marge and Lisa trying to enjoy the habitat simulator more than each other. I'm the other lab coatman. All the guys in this study have been horrible and must leave. Marge, you and Lisa are the finalists. Marge, you are especially the best.
It angers. I want to have a private convo.
So they do.
You just wanted me to quit, which is why you tried out to be on Mars in the first place.
Fuck you, bitch, you quit!
Listen, fuck you too, buddy.
So later, the exploration men, the lab coatmen, hold a press conference, and all the finalists who are going to Mars are there, who are like mostly people we haven't met, and Marge and Lisa. So listen, it seems that our competitors are almost done with their Mars rocket. Yeah, so we're moving this shit up to tomorrow. Everyone runs off because none of them were ready to do it immediately. They wanted to do it, in 10 years.
I'm still doing it. I got the guts.
Me too, bitch, me too!
So then they're in the damn rocket.
Sorry for all the shit, Mom.
It's okay, I love you, bitch!
Love you too. Aye, this sucks. Let's not do it.
Yes, this sucks, let's get out of this rocket!
So then it just cuts. They're outside the rocket again.
So listen, it's a fake rocket. It's just the outside of a rocket. It doesn't do anything.
We were gonna drive away while everyone was distracted, but our car wouldn't start. Anyway, yeah, it's over. So then back in the kitchen.
Wasn't that fucking crazy of us to almost go to Mars?
Yeah, whatever!
Then it flashes forward to Mars in 2051, and there's now like a colony on Mars, just as they were talking about.
Oh, now I want to move to Venus.
The hell with you, bitch!
Okay, that's it. Now for criticism. Clearly, my summaries have come to rely a little too heavily on profanity. Let's hope to scale that back in the future, friends. So whatever. Here's criticism of the episode. This is a completely fine modern episode, which is to say it's not good, it's just fine. It's not something I would ever tell people you need to watch. I mean, pretty standard for a good, quote-unquote good modern episode. There were lots of decent jokes. I like to cover the jokes I enjoyed at the top of the criticism. There were lots of decent jokes. I didn't honestly laugh too big at any of them, I think, but I found them all quite clever, at the very least. I probably chuckled. So one of them is Homer says something like to Bart at the chicken thing at the beginning. He says, "I won't live long enough to teach you about sex, but I'll teach you how to steal chicken or whatever." And I thought the funny part was, "I won't live long enough to teach you about sex." It's pretty dark. There was the part where Homer was explaining to Marge that she just has to support Lisa, because otherwise she'll want to do the thing more. He says to her, "Have you ever done something just because someone told you not to?" And she has a flashback to her mom forbidding her to marry Homer. Which, yeah, pretty good. That's a pretty good, funny use of flashback that kind of felt a little bit like the old days, if you ask me. Also, when Lisa says she wants to go to Mars, she says something about she wants to start spreading jazz up there. I didn't write down the whole line. She says something about wanting to, like, teach jazz up there, and somebody... I clearly, if I'm going to be honest, my notes aren't as extensive this time because, obviously, I've been working on multiple things at once, and I shat this out when I was very tired, my notes and everything. So sorry. But whoever it was, I don't remember who she's talking to, but she says she wants to put jazz on Mars in some capacity, and whoever she's talking to says that's exactly where jazz belongs. Take that, jazz. And probably one of the best, like, sort of old Homer things they had it was pretty good. When the whole family shows up at the Mars place, saying, "Oh, we've all volunteered to go to Mars," you hear Lisa's internal monologue and you hear Homer's internal monologue. And Lisa's internal monologue is like, "This must be some kind of fake out." Homer's is like, "Oh, this is working so good. Lisa's so faked out." And then it's it's kind of great because, like, it very quickly turns from Homer thinking, oh, he has the upper hand, to Homer's a lazy idiot because it's, oh, this must be some kind of fake out. And then Homer thinks Lisa's so faked out. And then the next thing Lisa thinks is, well, I just have to wait it out because pretty soon they'll get sick of this and they'll quit. And then Homer's next thought is, I'm getting sick of this. I think I'll quit soon. That was probably, like, one of the funniest lines in it. And then it, like, goes on a little bit, and Lisa's thinking about something completely different, and Homer's thinking, I wonder which of these guys I should talk to if I want to quit. So he's just so lazy. He's already, like, done with his own idea. And there was a kind of funny little line one of the scientist lab coat men says when they decide Marge is one of the best ones for the volunteer space mission. He says, "Marge, you're a revelation. Most of our candidates are of the egghead loner variety. Bookworms, teachers' pets, friendless middle children, that sort of thing." Yeah. I laughed at friendless middle children, and Lisa's sitting there getting pissed off. And there's a funny, cheesy line when Marge and Lisa are arguing where Marge says, "Looks like the ego has landed." Oh, that Marge. And after their fight too, they're in these fake habitation pods. So it's got like a zipper for like a tent door. And Lisa leaves really quickly and zips up the tent. And she says something like, "In space, that would be a door. On Mars, that would be a door slam," something like that. And she had to zip it up. Sorry I did such a shitty job writing down these jokes. And there's a pretty good line where Bart and Homer are talking about how Lisa and Marge are fighting, and Bart says, "I'm glad our relationship is about physical abuse, not psychological." And another line that, it was funny. When Marge and Lisa are in the rocket, Bart's like, "Wait, we can't let this happen. Mom's my only good parent." And Homer goes, "And Lisa's my only good kid." Yeah. So, few jokes actually bothered me. Usually there are some that really piss me off. The only stuff I didn't really like was... there was stuff like, I don't know, this notion of Homer saying, like, what you have to do with women is just, like, go along with whatever they want. They present this stubbornness of Marge and Lisa's as, like, a purely female thing. And there are these two scenes I completely skipped over where it's just Lisa and Marge have just had the fight, and Marge goes to complain to Homer, and Bart goes to complain to Lisa goes to complain to Bart. And the joke is Homer and Bart both do the same response. They just go, "Oh, and they nod, and they go, "Oh, that must be hard for you." And then Marge and Lisa are both like, "Oh, thank you for listening." And then, like, later Bart says something like, "Oh, thanks for teaching me that trick to listen to women." And Homer's like, "The key is the nod." And there's another, the very last joke, actually, that I didn't mention either because it wasn't necessary to the summary, is that in the future, Lisa's complaining about Marge to a robot, because it's the future, and it's called the Nod Bot, and the bot just nods its head back and forth and says, like, "Oh, that must be hard for you," and this kind of thing. I'm just kind of over those kinds of jokes. I'm a little over, I don't know. They automatically land in the pile of, they bore me a little bit when I hear that. It just seems like such an old 90s humor thing, the whole, like, men are like this and women are like this. I just always get to the point where I'm like, the older I get, the more I just think everybody's fucked up. I mean, I guess our society has dictated men are like this and women are like, but I don't know. I just feel like that stuff doesn't, like, and the men are presented as fuck ups who would ruin the expedition. They say all the volunteer men need to go because they'll destroy, they'll be a detriment to the mission. And to be clear, like, it's not just Homer and Bart. It's also, like, Skinner's there, and would Skinner be bad on Mars? I don't know. He seems organized. He seems good at following rules or something, Plus, like, Frink is one of the ones trying to go to Mars, because, of course he would be. That makes sense. But, like, we don't even see why he gets disqualified or quits. Like, why wouldn't Frink be good on Mars? Frink's a fucking scientist and an inventor, and apparently a pretty good one, So men are fuck-ups. Women are stubborn and need to be, and you have to just nod and listen to them. I don't know. I'm just bored by that stuff. There was like that. I just think everybody just write characters. A woman can be a fuck up. A man can be stubborn. I mean, it's the kind of thing. It's not interesting to me too, because, like, this notion of women just talk and guys just have to listen. Because obviously I'm a chatty fucking Kathy, so to me, I don't relate to it. There's that episode in the first season of Rick and Morty that I think might be the worst episode of the season, Raising Gazorpazorp. It has elements I like, but a lot of that one is just men are crass and women are like whatever, and I'm just bored. I don't know. Obviously, there's differences between men and women, but I don't know. In the end, I just prefer you define characters and they act accordingly to how you define them, rather than define them by, a preconceived notion of what a man is or what a woman is. I don't know. I'm bored. I'm bored by it because in my head I relate it to, like 90s comedy, like bad 90s comedy. where it's like, don't ever tell your woman to shut up because you'll never hear the end. You know, who cares? I just don't like cliches, is the simplest way to put it. And I don't know, and it stood out to me because I just felt like I hadn't seen jokes like that lately on The Simpsons. I don't know. Whatever. So the thing is, overall, though, this episode gets just about everything right as far as modern Simpsons goes. But the weird thing is, of course, it still feels really average. I'll get to why that is in a little bit. One thing is the guest stars are used pretty well. The guest stars are, I know two people who tuned into this episode specifically because of the guest stars. I mean, it's Tom Sharpling and John Wurster, who a lot of people don't know, but a lot of people do know. At the same time, they're sort of cult beloved. Tom Sharpling is, a lot of people now know him as Steven's dad, Greg, on Steven Universe. But before that, well, and continuing now, Tom Sharpling did a radio show on the he's a New Jersey guy, as am I, on the network WFMU, which is a volunteer radio station. John Wurster is the drummer for Superchunk, indie band, but he's also basically Tom Sharpling's comedy partner, and Tom Sharpling does this show, people call in, but John Wurster calls in as a character basically every week of the show, and they do kind of these goofy back and forths. I'll just say this as an aside. I like Tom Sharpling as a person. I think he's funny. I think he's, I don't know, I think he's an interesting guy. I think he's a very critical guy, and I think he's he gets angry at subpar things, which I admire him for, because obviously a bit of a kindred spirit situation. I met him once, and he seemed very nice. I met him at a get-together thing after a best show thing. But the thing I have to admit about Sharpling and Wurster is, the sad thing is, I tried to be a Sharpling and Wurster fan, and I am a fan to an extent. I enjoy stuff by them, and they have a few sketches I have liked. But I don't, I gotta admit, and I know at least one person who listens to this will have to disown me. I've just never, I tried to be a fan, I got bored. I don't know. I mean, their humor is, in a way, it's like, it's almost non-humor, it's really gentle. They are so respected by so many comedians. They really, really are. Like, everybody knows who they are in the comedy world. And I always feel a little bit dumb. It always makes me feel a little bit like they go over my head, which bothers me a little bit. Because I wish I just outright loved everything they do, but I just kind of, I listened to it for a while, and then I just realized, that's not enough for me. It's not funny enough for me. I don't know. I mean, apologize for Sharpling and Wurster fans. I wish I liked them more. There's a Sharpling clip I really love. If you search YouTube for, I think Tom Sharpling Hates Jokes. I like that a lot. Somebody took this clip of him on the radio and made puppets saying this stuff. And I think it's really funny, and I also relate to it because it's about how he kind of hates jokes with a setup and a punchline. The really drawn out jokes that you gotta give a bunch of exposition to get to, like the nacho cheese or whatever. That's the joke that's in it, actually, in the clip. And that's the kind of thing I really admire him for, that kind of stuff. But I don't know. But they were used pretty well in the show. They kind of let them do their bit in the credits. You hear them kind of have one of their little funny back and forths. But in general, I think they used them well because they didn't go like, hey, it's these two comedy guys. They put them in roles, and they just made them guys. I don't know that they got extremely funny lines. And I will say they were just kind of gag characters. They're there to sort of just say a few things. A little exposition, get a few jokes in. They're not people, you don't care about them. They're not guest characters that you're supposed to be that deeply invested in. But they're fine. They were used all right, and I mean it's good. Tom Sharpling seems like a guy who he's constantly making jokes, I think, about how underground he is and how he's never been a huge success in any way, but like everybody kind of knows who he is. Just like me, exactly the same. From New Jersey, exactly the same. And so it's good he managed to be on The Simpsons, and it wasn't completely shitty. But anyway, the thing that I usually complain about, in terms of also what the episode did technically right, I usually complain that they're not devoting enough time to the plots. They are cutting between events so quickly. Things are just so insane. You can't even get a grip on what's happening. It makes, episodes very hard to follow and very unreal. And you don't have time to kind of emotionally invest in anything or anybody. They didn't really do that. They devoted, the plots stayed pretty simple. I guess when you get down to it, there's only, well, is there only an A plot? Yeah, there kind of only is. I mean, the chicken thing at the beginning is dumb. I don't. I mean, I know they. I've always said the episodes when they were good, they like to do that often. They like to do an inane intro that it somehow leads into what happens later, but it barely matters. But I think those used to be better in the past because they were funny. This chicken thing is not that funny, and I don't know, it's so unrelated to what happens. Like, it's so oh, we're gonna get rid of these chickens now. I found a place, to get rid. Like, it could have been like to for it to be a Mars expedition. The idea that like the entry point into that is chickens that they're getting rid of. I don't know, dumb. So not a fan of that intro, and I hate that shit because, as I said, it's the hardest stuff to summarize. It's the weirdest stuff. The machinations involved, machinations. How do people say that? But the hoops, the writing hoops they jump through to get those weird intros out. You can't summarize them easily. They're insane. But the rest of it, I think there was only an A plot. Aside from that chicken thing, it was basically an A plot, so that's why it didn't feel rushed. They finally just did an A plot in this case. They didn't have to keep switching between their two plots. But the funny thing is, since they managed to devote more time to these plots, I actually skipped over whole scenes in my summary, as I already said, the ones, and I admit that's a bit unfair to the episode. It makes it seem thinner than it is. And it's something I've said always when people say, what would happen if you summarized a good episode? Like a genuinely good one from the past. And I've always said, it would be harder because you would be summarizing multiple scenes that are kind of just there to build some emotion. And those are more subtle. It's harder to explain those in quick sweeping generalizations like, now we're all going to Mars, like that kind of thing. You've kind of got to, because that's the benefit of the crazy plots is these plot movements are so broad and insane that you can just kind of dismiss them with one sentence. It's a little unfair to go like, now Lisa's a little angry at Marge. There's nuance to this stuff. So in fairness, yeah, I mean, the thing I've always said about good episodes was it would be hard to summarize them quickly because you would miss that nuance, and I suppose that's true here as well, that I skipped that stuff and it was unfair to the episode. At the same time, though, I'm not sure they did a great job on it. I don't feel they did a great job, because the point of these scenes that drive home the stuff we already know is that they should be building upon the stuff we already know. Like, Marge and Lisa have a fight. We know Marge and Lisa are angry at each other. Then it cuts to Marge complaining to Homer, Lisa complaining to Bart. And I guess, instead of building on the other hand, I maybe am not being that unfair, because the thing with these extra scenes is, though they're supposed to be building on the important stuff in the episode, they kind of don't work. In a way, they don't do it. Like, okay, for one of the scenes I basically skipped was Lisa having fun at the Mars expedition place. It's these like two scenes that happen, and then it's Lisa going, I still want to go to Mars, and Marge is like, oh damn it, she still wants to go, what are we gonna do now? And then they all decide to volunteer. The thing is, it's supposed to be Lisa like having a good time, but it doesn't actually show that because they're too busy just filling it with gags. I mean, you should be able to do both at once. Like, one scene is just, I guess this was like the Sharpling and Worcester get to shine scene. It's just them talking about how they're a private business, so they've got all these corporate entities backing their Mars launch. So it kind of like, I don't know, it just turns the expedition into more of a joke. I guess it's important a little later, but it's not that important. The reason they move the Mars launch up is one of their competitors is closer to success, and they promised one of their investors that they would do it first. But like, you don't need to know that they promised one of their investors. It's all just a gag. So whatever. There's a scene of Lisa seeing them like talk about their corporate sponsorships, and then there's a scene of all the Mars volunteers kind of like messing around with each other, and it's just jokes. So you don't get a real indication that Lisa's having a great time. So it's supposed to be a building scene, but it's a little bit just like a, some time for gags scene. And then the stuff where like Lisa and Marge fight, and then they go and tell Homer and Bart that they're mad, rather than really building on and like telling you, oh, why are they mad, or adding something to their anger, developing it to show you how angry they are, or I don't know what they should have done exactly. It just kind of reminds you. It's just, I think it's a commercial break, and it comes back and goes, remember, they're mad at each other. So, and again, it's played for gags. I think you're more focusing on, oh, Homer and Bart are saying literally the same thing because they're both, Bart taught Homer, just say, oh, that must be hard for you, and nod. So I don't know. Like, in a way, they've got scenes that repeat information. And while I would prefer that to plots that move so quickly, I can't get a grip on what's happening. Technically, those scenes could be doing more. They should somehow be building on what we already know rather than just reinforcing it or not really properly reinforcing it as they should be. I mean, to an extent, when I say this stuff, I'm like, what do I actually want? Am I just being completely unfair to these episodes? If I went back and watched old episodes, would I find that I've been too hard? It's very possible. I mean, also something I'd say, too, is if these scenes that are just kind of gags made me laugh more, I probably wouldn't complain about them. But they're just, some stuff happens, fills some time. But I do think in this case it is a real issue, because there's a problem with a lack of escalation. I mean, Marge and Lisa's anger should be more clearly a bigger deal over time. They are building it with this montage of Lisa getting mad that Marge is doing better than her and everything. But these final scenes, there should be more tipping stuff that we believe it would lead to this tipping point where Marge and Lisa are genuinely in the fucking rocket, both ready to go to Mars to, like, prove a point. But I will say, like, the Lisa and Marge becoming more and more angry, they did all right. They built that up, to an extent. But for sure, when the whole family decides together we're all going to volunteer to go to Mars, there should have been a more clear tipping point for that. It almost just comes off like Marge is getting impatient. Because, they have 10 fucking years. That's the thing that's so silly about it. There's 10 years for Lisa to lose interest in this. But Marge is like, she still wants to go to Mars. What are we going to do? You got 10 years to deal with this, you realize. Like, all right. Whatever. I just... like she's being a little bit irrational, considering Lisa's a child who's just decided she'd go to Mars. You got a very long time to decide. When you're a kid, you make stupid decisions. Anyway, it makes Marge seem a little silly and impatient. So, yeah, I do think those scenes that were a little bit filler should have worked a little harder to show Lisa's too into this, Marge is getting too antsy, whatever. But, I mean, because what it is, this leads to the other problem, which is that I don't fully, and this is probably the biggest problem with all of it, I don't fully believe in the majority of it. I don't fully believe in this conflict. It's not so much that it's about going to Mars. They even address the fact that Homer's been to space before. Homer says he's been to space before, to the Sharpling and Worcester characters. He says he's been to space. He says, last time I almost killed everybody. And Worcester lab coat guy says, and what did you learn from that? And Homer goes, lessons, I guess. It's sort of funny. But the thing is, the thing I always say is Homer has been to space. And I didn't find that too out of the ordinary. So if you build to stuff, I can believe it. The problem is the lack of development makes me not entirely believe this. I don't believe the fact that the family just enlists. It's too absurd that they just all at once go, it's been like a week, Lisa, and you're still into this? Oh, we're all going to enlist. Like, I don't know, just because, again, it's another thing where if you're accepting it, and this is why it's fine for modern Simpsons, is if you're accepting the fact that the Simpsons are no longer really people, they're just cartoon characters you can drop into situations, then it's fine. But if you're thinking about them in terms of them being real people and a real family, which they used to be, then it's not fine, because fucking Marge wouldn't volunteer her baby, which, by the way, Maggie, from what I can recall, just kind of disappears from those scenes later on. Like, she's there initially, like Maggie's gonna volunteer, and there's even a little joke about it, like, oh, we're gonna put her baby in Mars or whatever. But then Maggie just disappears. So, which often happens with Maggie. Yeah, we don't know what to do with Maggie. If I can cut her out of the scene, who cares? It's a little too nuts. Like, Marge isn't stubborn enough to act like this. I don't, know why it's suddenly a thing of Marge is stubborn. They act like this is a thing, this is a trait they both have. Is it? Marge isn't like this, is she? It doesn't feel like the Marge we once knew when, the characters felt like they had some real definition to them. I don't know. The Marge that's, so nuts, she would act... the fact that they all join on, the fact that, Homer is a fucking... I know that more and more fell away, but, the notion that we don't even acknowledge, Homer works? Homer used to go to a job? That one, I might be talking shit because... more and more over the years that became, but yeah, not even a passing reference to the fact that Homer has a job at the nuclear power plant. You're gonna spend a week inside this fake habitat. Okay, Homer can do that, like what? Not even passing references there because they're just goofy characters. You could drop them into any situation. Watch what happens. So that bugs me. And Marge and Lisa's relationship, like it's like, okay, Lisa's stubborn, sure. I don't know that Marge is that stubborn in this way. And like competitive with her own daughter. It's very odd. Marge actually says it when they argue. She says like, "You're just mad because I'm finally good at something," which is a bizarre line for Marge. Is that a problem for Marge? Is Marge always wandering around going like, I'm never good at anything? What? I don't think that's Marge. Really? I guess there have been episodes she's like when she started the pretzel franchise thing. I guess there are those episodes where like Marge decides she wants to do something more with her life other than be a housewife, a stay-at-home mom or whatever. So fine. But I don't know, you should set this up more. It's weird. It's a little weird. It doesn't feel like Marge to me to act like this. And it's the fact that Marge, cares about her kids a lot. And I guess that's supposed to be the idea. She cares about Lisa so much that she actually go as far as going all the way to space with her, going to live on Mars. But at the same time, she cares about Bart and she cares about Maggie, who's just like forgotten. Maggie's just so forgotten. And she cares about Homer. And so the notion that she would like go so far, like the fact that there's actually a scene where Marge and Lisa are in a fucking rocket ready to go and nobody has stopped them. Marge hasn't stopped them. Homer hasn't stopped them. Or Bart. There's a point where like it's Homer and Bart are sitting in the stands. That's when they have the line where they go, "Wait a minute, we can't let this happen. Mom's my best parent," and whatever. There's my cat meowing. My cat is now and I record this in the closet because it's a pretty big closet and I get good sound. But my cat has been sitting in here and he's mad that I took his seat. So now he's in here. We'll see how this works out. Now the cat is on my lap. This isn't working. My cat is huge, by the way, which makes it really hard to sit in here with him. Yeah, so I just think it's too nuts that like neither Homer or the notion that we cut to fucking them in the rocket already, and at that point Homer and Bart go, "Wait a minute, we can't let this happen." That's not, they're not behaving like themselves enough. They would care more than this. They wouldn't let it get this far. It's stupid. That's the main problem with it. It's the fact that it all basically works and it's fine for modern Simpsons. It's just one of those things where you realize what caricatures the characters, or the Flanderization of these characters, that they're just kind of these goofy, like they can just be dropped into these nutty situations. And they're not behaving like they really care about each other, like they have real emotion. Even though the whole episode is about Lisa and Marge's relationship, it works a little bit. But it's also just weird. It's also just it's I don't know. Marge doesn't show enough real consideration, and I don't think she acts like herself. And yeah, it gives me the issue of like not really believing in the characters. In a different show, this would work. I mean, in a show that didn't define these characters as more realistic people once, this would work. But it's fine. I mean, it's not great. It's fine. Oh, another thing, too, is that ending where they flash forward to the future and Marge and Lisa live on Mars. Another thing that's unfortunate, again, this is another problem that this show being on so long and doing so much, this sort of thing doesn't quite work anymore, because they used to do that. They had those, like the Itchy and Scratchy movie episode where they flash forward and I think Bart's a justice of the Supreme Court and whatnot. You used to be able to know that those flash forwards to the future, you didn't take them seriously. You weren't like, "Oh, that's definitely what happens." But the thing is, they've had so many future episodes now where they're kind of implying this is the actual future, that it's gotten so muddled and weird now that it's like, it's a little harder to take these flash forwards to the future jokes as jokes, because you're like, wait, is that the real future? Is that real? Like, they've done so much future stuff that now you're like, wait, did you just fucking change the future again? Because you did. They weren't on Mars before. And it makes it almost a little depressing, because now the new future it's just Marge and Lisa alone. I mean, they're in a society, but like they left the rest of the family behind and they're just on Mars together. And it's like, oh, how depressing, It wasn't a very funny ending anyway, but you know what I mean? Like it's one of those things where The Simpsons has done so much of everything that they can't even really do the kind of joke they used to do without it, it doesn't really work anymore. This sort of like joke device of flashing forward doesn't really work anymore. And I mean, that's, a big part of it too. Some of it just comes out of, there's an issue of the show at the modern show. This show's gone on too long. And there's a point at which it's like, what can they do that will surprise? What can they do that won't, in some way, just seem tired? And so like, there's a way in which this show, I acknowledge this always, this show can't win, really, with me, if I'm being honest. It's very unlikely, frankly. You know, I don't know. It's just one of those things where it's again, cancel the Simpsons because there's no. It's really almost impossible to look at an episode and I don't know, what are they ever gonna do that's gonna be like, hey, this is a revival? They can't do it, so cancel the show. I've said it before. The show should be over. But hey, pretty good for modern Simpsons. I hope Sharpling and Worcester fans. I hope it's nice that they didn't get shit on. Those two guys didn't get put in a horrible episode. They got put in an okay episode. So I'm going to give it a rating of, hey, it was kind of good out of, it still doesn't matter. Cool news! Okay, here's the hottest news very quickly. The news is that the reason everything is so late is I decided to do an actual Simpsons for the last episode. The funny thing was, I recorded that one before I did it, going like, oh, I'll be able to do it in a few days. But I was giving myself lofty goals that I would never reach. It took fucking 2 weeks. And it's funny because I'm saying that right now. I'm lying again to myself. Hilariously, as I'm recording this, I still have not finished it. I'm intending to finish it this very day. There's a chance it will stretch to tomorrow. This is Thursday the 17th right now. But I'm pretty near the end of it, but not extremely near, but pretty near. The hope is to get that Simpsons out today or tomorrow, and then hopefully a bunch of these Joe's Two Criticals, these two in fairly quick succession. That's the goal. So the funny thing is I'm still not at the end of the Simpsons. That will be released before you hear this, certainly. The thing I wanted to say, though, now that I have worked on it quite a bit and I've done almost the whole thing, I still pretty much hated doing it. There was a brief moment at the beginning where I was excited to see, like, it might be fun to make one right now. Let's try it out. Yeah, and for a little bit I thought it's boring. Like, it's the same process I remember, and it's kind of boring, but I'm not mad. I'm just able to do it and just go, oh, here we go. And I think that's just because I had a bit of a break from it. But gradually the old hate set in, and I remembered why I was bored by this and why I don't really like making The Simpsons. So, yeah. After this one, fuck knows when I'll ever do another one again because, it was the same. It was the same. You tell me if it came out the same. I feel it, I think I went a little more surreal in some places. I decided to sacrifice coherency all the more because who cares? It's funnier to me, but whatever. I think that's it. Oh, the only other thing was, as I said, going to try to make these podcasts shorter because I don't really want them to be longer than a half hour. I guess we'll see if that bears out now when I look back at how long I sat here recording this. But it is my goal to make these shorter because I really only want them to be about a half hour. Because I don't want to edit them. I don't want to edit them anymore. It's too much editing, and I don't get to do anything else. I know I complain a lot. I'm very sorry. Okay. I think that's it. The only other thing was I made a joke ages ago in a Simpsons saying that I'd never seen an episode of Breaking Bad. Still true, but I ran a damn poll on Twitter where I asked people, what should I watch finally from beginning to end? And it was Seinfeld, because I haven't finished Seinfeld. I want to start over and watch it all. Breaking Bad, which official title is Break So Bad, please note. If you don't understand, educate yourself. But the title is Break So Bad, and I do kind of insist that everybody refer to it as Break So Bad, please. Or The Sopranos, which I only ever saw, I think, 4 seasons of, so I'd start that over too. Nobody cares about The Sopranos anymore. That's been knocked out by Breaking Bad, clearly. Nobody voted for that. Everybody voted for Seinfeld, or something else I said, whatever. Everybody told me to watch Breaking Bad. Big surprise. I knew everybody would tell me to watch Breaking Bad. Of course, I wanted to watch Seinfeld. I like comedy more than drama. But basically, maybe I'll finally fucking watch Breaking Bad. I'm still putting off doing it, but the fucking, 10 people or something have spoken on Twitter and told me to watch Break So Bad. So I will watch Break So Bad. I'll get to it. I'm getting to it. Jeez Louise. I think that this episode was a W. Thanks, guys. Hey, Flanders, I didn't know you have a chicken coop with chickens in it, your blogger boogie.